Do you ever find yourself lost in thought, pondering the big questions of life, the universe, and everything in between? You might be examining the intricate dance of human relationships, the vastness of cosmic possibility, or the silent whispers of your own inner world. And yet, instead of clarity or peace, you often feel a profound sense of sadness, an inexplicable ache, or a quiet weariness settled deep within your bones. It's a strange irony, isn't it? That those who dive deepest into the ocean of existence, those who dare to peel back the layers of reality and truly understand, often resurface not with treasures, but with heavier hearts. Why do the very minds capable of such profound insight and understanding seem to carry the heaviest burdens? Why do deep thinkers, the quiet observers, and relentless questioners among us often suffer the most? Perhaps you felt it yourself. That quiet unease, that lingering melancholy, that sense of being both intensely connected and strangely alone in a world that often seems content to skim the surface. To understand this unique burden, we must first acknowledge that deep thinking isn't merely a habit. It's often an inherent way of being, a wiring of the mind that perceives the world with an unusual depth and intensity. It's a gift, certainly a capacity for profound insight, for seeing patterns where others see chaos, for understanding the unspoken currents beneath the surface of everyday life. But like any powerful gift, it comes with a formidable shadow. Imagine having senses far more acute than anyone else's. You would hear the faintest whispers, see the most subtle shifts in light, feel the slightest changes in temperature. This heightened sensitivity might allow you to appreciate beauty others miss. But it would also mean you be overwhelmed by everyday noise, assaulted by bright lights, and constantly aware of discomfort others simply ignore. This is in many ways the experience of the deep thinker. Their senses for understanding are so refined that they pick up on the subtle disharmonies, the quiet suffering, and the profound inconsistencies that most people are shielded from by their more pragmatic or less introspective natures. One of the most immediate sources of suffering for the deep thinker is a heightened awareness of the world's imperfections. While others might see a flourishing garden, the deep thinker also sees the delicate balance, the potential for blight, the cycle of decay, and the quiet struggle for survival. They notice the cracks in the sidewalk, not just the path. They see the flaws in systems, the hypocrisy in institutions, the inconsistencies in human behavior, and the fundamental unfairness that permeates so much of existence. This isn't a cynical choice. It's a profound inability to ignore what is plainly visible to their perceptive minds. When someone makes a casual, thoughtless remark, a deep thinker doesn't just hear the words. They process the underlying assumptions, the implicit biases, the lack of empathy, and the ripple effect that such a remark might have. This constant, uninvited exposure to the world's ugliness, its suffering, and its pervasive imperfections can feel like a relentless assault on the soul. It makes it difficult to simply enjoy things without an awareness of their fleeting nature or the pain that might exist just beyond the frame. They carry the weight of this awareness, often feeling a low hum of disappointment or concern, even in moments that should be purely joyful. Coupled with this heightened awareness is an intensified capacity for empathy. Deep thinkers aren't just intellectual machines. They are often profoundly emotional beings who feel the suffering of others with a raw intensity. They don't just understand intellectually that poverty exists. They imagine the gnawing hunger, the cold nights, the desperate choices. They don't just read about war. They feel the terror, the loss, the unimaginable grief of those caught in its crossfire. Their minds connect the dots between individual actions and collective consequences, personal struggles, and systemic injustices. This deep, almost porous empathy means they often absorb the pain of the world, carrying it within themselves as if it were their own. They feel the quiet desperation in a stranger's eyes, the unspoken worry of a friend, the collective anxiety of a society grappling with profound challenges. This makes it incredibly difficult to simply switch off or distance themselves from suffering. They yearn to alleviate it, to fix it, to understand its roots, and the inability to do so can lead to a crushing sense of helplessness and despair. It's a constant emotional labor draining their reserves and leaving them feeling depleted even when they haven't directly experienced the pain themselves. Their hearts are wide open, and the world often rushes in with all its messy, painful realities. Beyond the external world, the deep thinker's mind itself can become a source of immense suffering. Their brains are tireless engines constantly running, analyzing, dissecting, and questioning. This constant mental activity, while leading to brilliant insights, can also be utterly exhausting and overwhelming. It's like having an internal dialogue that never ceases. A committee meeting that runs 24/7, debating every possibility, every consequence, every what if. They can get caught in endless loops of rumination, replaying past conversations, dissecting future scenarios, or endlessly contemplating abstract concepts. This overthinking isn't a choice. It's a default setting. It makes it difficult to simply be in the moment, to quiet the noise, to find true inner peace. Sleep often eludes them as their minds continue to churn long after the body yearns for rest. This relentless mental activity can lead to anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of mental fatigue. The very tool that brings them profound understanding also traps them in a labyrinth of their own creation, where every thought breeds another, and true silence becomes an elusive luxury. This internal complexity often leads to significant social alienation. In a world that frequently prioritizes superficial interactions, quick answers, and consensus, the deep thinker can feel profoundly out of step. Small talk feels trivial, mundane conversations feel like static, and the casual dismissal of important issues by others can be deeply frustrating. They crave genuine connection, meaningful dialogue, and conversations that delve beneath the surface, exploring ideas, emotions, and the intricacies of the human experience. But finding individuals who share this yearning for depth can be incredibly challenging. They often find themselves in situations where they are misunderstood, dismissed as too serious, too sensitive, or overthinking things. This feeling of being fundamentally different, of seeing the world through a lens that few others share, can lead to profound loneliness. They might feel like an alien observing humanity, struggling to bridge the gap between their rich inner world and the often simplistic realities of external interaction. This loneliness isn't about being alone physically. It's a deep, aching sense of not being seen or truly understood, of having to guard their true thoughts and feelings to navigate social landscapes. They might even try to suppress their natural inclinations to dumb down their thoughts or pretend to be less complex, which only adds another layer of suffering, the pain of self-betrayal. Perhaps the most profound suffering of the deep thinker stems from their grappling with existential questions. While others might be content with accepted narratives or simply avoid pondering their own mortality, purpose, or the vastness of the cosmos, the deep thinker cannot. They are compelled to confront the abyss, to question meaning in a seemingly meaningless universe, to wrestle with the inevitability of death and the often absurd nature of human existence. They ponder the fleetingness of life, the vastness of time, and the ultimate insignificance of individual endeavors against the backdrop of eternity. This confrontation with fundamental truths, while intellectually stimulating, is rarely comforting. It can lead to a pervasive sense of angst, a feeling of being adrift in an indifferent universe, or a profound realization that many of the things society values are ultimately transient and without inherent meaning. They might struggle with the concept of free will, the nature of consciousness, or the ethical dilemmas of a complex world without clear answers. The search for truth, for answers to these ultimate questions, often leads not to solace, but to more questions, more uncertainty, and a deeper appreciation of the vastness of what remains unknown. This can be terrifying, leaving them feeling profoundly unmoored and anxious about the very foundations of reality. Furthermore, the deep thinker often suffers from the very knowledge they acquire. The more they learn, the more they realize how much they don't know or how complex and interconnected every problem truly is. A superficial understanding might offer simple solutions, but a deep understanding reveals layers of nuance, conflicting interests, and unintended consequences. This can lead to a form of paralysis where the clarity of a simple path forward is obscured by the recognition of countless complex variables. They see the flaws in every proposed solution, the potential for harm in every good intention. This isn't pessimism. It's a consequence of thorough analysis. It makes it difficult for them to be decisive, to act quickly, or to embrace simplistic narratives. They bear the burden of knowing too much, of seeing the intricate web of cause and effect, which can make them hesitate, question, and ultimately feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the challenges facing humanity and themselves. The more light they shine, the more shadows they perceive. And these shadows can be deeply unsettling. They become acutely aware of their own limitations, the limits of human knowledge, and the precariousness of all that we hold dear. So, is the life of a deep thinker condemned to perpetual suffering, an inescapable fate of carrying a weight that only grows heavier with each new layer of understanding? The resounding answer is not necessarily, for their path, while undoubtedly arduous, is not a life sentence to unmitigated anguish. However, navigating this path successfully demands a different kind of strength altogether. Not the brute force to dominate the world, but the resilient fortitude to accommodate it in all its chaotic glory. It requires a profound and radical acceptance, a shift in perspective where the goal is not the futile eradication of suffering, as if it were a weed to be pulled, but rather a deliberate and courageous process of understanding its origins, integrating its presence into the fabric of their being, and learning to leverage its unique energy. For it is precisely through this intimate engagement with suffering, this constant and often exhausting grappling with existential discomfort, that the deep thinker's most valuable faculties are honed to a razor's edge. Their minds, like blades tempered in fire, are sharpened against the hard stones of complex problems and unanswerable questions. Their insights are deepened, moving from superficial observations to profound foundational truths, because they have been willing to dwell in the confusing and often dark spaces where simpler answers fail. Furthermore, their capacity for empathy is expanded exponentially, as their own encounters with pain create an internal resonance that allows them to feel the sufferings of others not as abstract concepts, but as visceral realities. In this light, their pain is stripped of its meaninglessness and revealed for what it truly is: the essential crucible, the searing heat and immense pressure within which their most unique and valuable contributions to the world are forged. It is the raw material from which their compassion is sculpted, the dark soil from which their wisdom grows. One of the most vital paths toward mitigating this inherent suffering, therefore, lies not in a frantic search for superficial distractions that can only offer a temporary numbing, but in a courageous and counterintuitive embrace of the very depth that is the source of their pain. This begins with the deliberate and often difficult quest to find or create spaces, both physical and psychological, where their true, unvarnished selves can be fully seen, acknowledged, and appreciated without judgment or the demand to simplify their complexity. It involves a conscious and sustained effort to seek out and connect with other deep thinkers, those rare kindred spirits who speak the same silent language of introspection, even if they are few and far between, scattered like stars in a vast social sky. For in these moments of shared understanding, where a single glance can convey volumes and a half-finished thought is met with complete comprehension, the profound, isolating loneliness that so often plagues them can be miraculously transmuted into its opposite: a deep, resonant, and soul-nourishing connection. This journey inward also necessitates the conscious cultivation of moments of profound silence and purposeful introspection. This is not the same as the involuntary rumination that traps them in endless loops of anxiety. Rather, it is a disciplined practice of creating a sacred inner sanctuary. It is the act of turning down the volume of the external world to listen to the symphony, and sometimes the cacophony, within, not to get lost in it, but to integrate the disparate threads of their thoughts, to find those precious, elusive pockets of stillness amidst the relentless mental storm. Through this practice, they learn the invaluable art of becoming their own best company, of discovering a sustainable and genuine joy in their own solitude. They come to know that within the rich, sprawling, and often uncharted terrain of their own inner world lies not a prison, but an entire universe waiting to be explored. A universe filled with unique constellations of ideas, untouched landscapes of emotion, and the profound peace that comes from self-acquaintance. This is not an escape from reality, but a deeper engagement with the primary reality of their own consciousness, a mastery of their inner environment that grants them the stability and resilience to navigate the outer one with greater grace, purpose, and a sense of agency over their own extraordinary minds. It also means finding avenues for expression, for the deep thinker often carries within them a veritable wellspring of insights, observations, and emotions that demand an outlet, a channel through which the immense internal pressure can be released and given form. This internal landscape, so rich and so tumultuous, cannot remain forever contained without causing further strain. It must be translated into something external, something tangible that can stand as a testament to the intricate workings of a mind that never rests. Whether this takes the form of writing, where words become the delicate brushes that paint the contours of their complex inner world, or art, where color, shape, and texture can express what language sometimes fails to capture, the act of creation is not merely a hobby but a vital necessity. It is a process of alchemy, where the leaden weight of existential dread, the sharp sting of perceived injustice, and the profound ache of boundless empathy are transformed into gold, into stories, poems, paintings, symphonies, or philosophical discourses that carry the signature of a soul that feels too deeply. This transformative process is incredibly therapeutic, for it allows the thinker to step outside of themselves and observe their own chaos from a new perspective, to organize the cacophony of their thoughts into a coherent melody, and in doing so, to achieve a momentary sense of order and control over the vast, often overwhelming currents of their consciousness. Furthermore, this act of external creation does more than just alleviate personal suffering. It performs a crucial function in the wider world. It transforms the solitary burden of heightened awareness into a profound gift for others. The unique perspective forged in the fires of their deep contemplation becomes a beacon, a source of illumination for those who may be grappling with similar feelings of alienation or confusion, but lack the vocabulary or the framework to understand them. When a deep thinker articulates their experience, they give voice to the silent struggles of countless others, offering validation and a sense of shared humanity. Their work can illuminate paths that were previously shrouded in shadow, inspire new modes of thought that challenge complacency, and offer a rare and precious comfort to those who also feel lost in the depths, assuring them that they are not alone in their sensitivity to the world's complexities. This creative output becomes a bridge between their isolated inner universe and the collective human experience, a means of connecting that transcends the limitations of ordinary social interaction and touches something fundamental in others. Ultimately, the very existence of this suffering in deep thinkers stands as a powerful testament to their profound humanity. It is not a flaw or a malfunction, but rather a sign of their radical openness to the world in all its terrifying and beautiful complexity. It is evidence of a courageous refusal to settle for the simplistic answers, the comforting illusions, and the superficial narratives that so often placate the masses. Their enduring discomfort is the price of their intellectual and emotional integrity, a direct consequence of their boundless capacity for empathy, which allows them to feel the reverberations of pain and joy far beyond the confines of their own skin. Therefore, this suffering must never be mistaken for a weakness. It is, in fact, the inverse. It is a direct and undeniable consequence of their strength. It is the echo of their strength of mind, which relentlessly pursues truth regardless of how unsettling it may be. It is the proof of their strength of heart, which remains open and vulnerable in a world that often encourages detachment and cynicism. This weight they carry is, in essence, the price of admission to a deeper, more nuanced, and more authentic understanding of existence. It is the toll paid for the ability to see the world not just as it appears on the surface, but in its full, multifaceted, and often contradictory reality. And while this burden may be undeniably heavy, it is also the very thing that forges within them the capacity for extraordinary compassion, a compassion that is born from truly understanding the roots of suffering. It cultivates a profound wisdom that is not just intellectual, but embodied and felt, a wisdom that recognizes the interconnectedness of all things. It grants them a unique and agile ability to navigate the intricate, often treacherous currents of life with a perspective that can anticipate complexities and nuance where others see only simplicity. Their pain, therefore, serves as a crucial reminder, a reminder that to truly see the world without filters, to truly feel its triumphs and tragedies as one's own, and to truly understand the mechanisms beneath the surface of reality, is the endeavor that inevitably comes with a significant cost. But it is a cost that, when embraced and channeled, refines the soul and amplifies the spirit. It is this very cost, this agonizing sensitivity, and this relentless pursuit of meaning that renders them the most intensely present, the most beautifully complex, and the most vibrantly, achingly alive among us. Their lives are lived at a higher volume of feeling and a greater depth of perception. And though this can be agonizing, it is also what allows them to touch the very core of what it means to be human, transforming their personal anguish into a universal song of struggle and transcendence that has the power to echo through the lives of others, providing solace, inspiration, and a map for navigating the beautiful, terrible, and magnificent depths of being.